I started already.
You started. Okay, Be'ezat Hashem. We're going to end off the Bishul part of Perek Kirah today. We're starting Daf Mem Bet. Yeah, don't touch anything. Good idea. Daf Mem Bet. מה? לא, הוא לא ענה. Daf Mem Bet. The Gemara says, we were talking yesterday, Shmuel said, Lo shanu afilu letzaref mutar, meaning even if you put in enough hot water in the pot, that it could temper it, that it could, after you put it in, it's very hot, you put it in the cold water, it will cool it down. Cooling it down a little bit is not tempering it. You have to put in a lot of cold water so it rapidly draws down the temperature. So Rav said, you're not allowed to put in enough cold water to be mitzaref. Why? Because Rav holds, like Rabbi Yehuda who holds, davar she'emet kaven is asur, even though it's not your intention, and it might not happen, it's still asur. And Shmuel says, no, you're allowed to put in shiur letzaref. Why? Because Shmuel holds like Rabbi Shimon, that says, davar she'emet kaven is mutar. And l'chaora, I mean, it's not a secret. We had a Gemara beferush, when we were talking about madlikim in Ner, Rav said, "En halacha Rabbi Shimon begerera," and Shmuel says, "Halacha Rabbi Shimon begerera." That's the shita that we know that Shmuel has. For some reason, over here, the Gemara decides to ask a question. The Gemara says, "Lememra, are you telling me the Shmuel Rabbi Shimon sviralei? Are you telling me that Shmuel holds like Rabbi Shimon that says, davar she'emet kaven, something that happens along the way when you're doing something else that's mutar, and something else might happen that's asur, might happen, might not happen. Shmuel holds that's mutar because it's not what I was trying to do. The ha'amar Shmuel, doesn't Shmuel say, mechabin gahelet shel mateche birshut harabim b'shvil shelo yuzoku barabim avalo gahelet shel etz. What are we talking about over here? You have a gahelet shel etz, that's a regular piece of wood that's burning. That's fire. If you put it out, you made pehamim, you made coals. That's the isur deoraita of mechabed. That's what they made. They used kibui for in the Mishkan. That's davar. It's a tikkun. You're making something like we said mepenei shuol sepeham, right? That's the deoraita. Now you have, if you do that, if you put out a gahelet shel etz, you put out a wood coal, not because I want coals, because it's dangerous. I don't want someone to get hurt. So am I doing a melacha deoraita or not? If I hold the melacha she'en tzricha legufa is chayav, right? That whatever the reason I'm doing it for doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference is the action. So whether I do it because I want coals, whether I do it because I don't want anybody to get hurt, whether I do it because it smells, whatever, doesn't make a difference. I'm chayav. That was hamchabet taner. Kehasa laner, kehasa lashemen, right? Those two is melacha she'en tzricha legufa. I'm not doing it because I want the coal. The Tanakama holds you hayav. If I hold like that, like Rabbi Yehuda, so that's a melacha deoraita. So in that case, if you're doing a melacha deoraita, it's only going to be mutar if it's sakanat nefashot mamash, right? We only matir melacha deoraita on Shabbat for sakanat nefashot. If you don't think it's sakana, it's not a sakana. It's possible somebody could get hurt. It's not a sakana. Even if he gets hurt, man, he'll get a burn. I mean, we don't want it, but it's not necessarily pikuach nefesh. There's a shot. Somebody won't be careful, might come to pikuach. Because you go there, do melacha d'oraita for that, you can't do. So if it's a gahelet shel etz, if I hold like Rabbi Yehuda, that the melacha she'en tzricha legufa is chayav, I can't put it out. That's what Shmuel says. But gahelet shel matechet, you have a burning hot piece of metal. That's called a gahelet shel matechet. It's a metal coal. When you put that out, you didn't make a peham. It was metal. It's metal. You didn't make anything. So a gahelet shel matechet, you'll pour water on it. That's not even a melacha deoraita because you're not making peham. So gahelet shel matechet, even though normally we won't let you pour water on it, it was glowing red. It's on fire. You pour water on it. Normally we tell you it's asur. Why gezerah? Maybe you'll come to put out a gahelet shel etz. It's mihlif, right? People make a mistake, but for bimkom ezek rabim, where people can get hurt, we don't make a gezerah d'rabanan bimkom ezek rabim. And then for some reason, not worried about tziluf over here. right? So the Gemara says, what? Maybe it's not a keli. It's not so clear, but they're not worried, right? If you think savar like Rabbi Shimon, that he holds like Rabbi Shimon, filu shel etz nami, he should even hold gahelet shel etz as mutar, because Rabbi Shimon, not only does he hold, it's a funny question, not only does he hold davar she'en mitkaven is mutar, he also holds melacha she'en tzricha legufa is mutar. And if Shmuel holds like Rabbi Shimon, shouldn't he hold like him by both? What kind of question is that? It's all or nothing over here. Says the Gemara, no. B'davar she'mitkaven, when it comes to davar she'mitkaven, savar like Rabbi Shimon. He holds like Rabbi Shimon, davar she'mitkaven is mutar. And that's why even if you put in enough water to make siruf, it's okay, because davar she'mitkaven. But b'melacha she'en tzricha legufa, savar like Rabbi Yehuda. That machlokit he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, even though you're not doing it for the purpose that was done in the Mishkan, as long as you're doing it, you're hayav. Hold like Rabbi Yehuda, and that's why gahelet shel etz is asur. That's the end of the sugya, more or less. Tosafot tries to explain why if you hold like Rabbi Yehuda by melacha she'en tzricha legufa, you should hold like him by davar she'mitkaven. Nothing too exciting. For some reason, the Gemara had that opinion over here. The Gemara says, now, just the thing on the side, from over here you see, the Rambam learns from here that a gahelet shel matechet is considered on fire. So therefore, if you heat up metal till it's glowing, right? If you heat up metal till it's glowing, it's considered mav'ir. There's two Rambams. One says mevashel and one says mav'ir. That's what they say when you turn on the lights on Shabbat. That's the isur. Because in the incandescent bulb at least, there's a filament that gets heated till it's glowing. That's called mav'ir. It doesn't burn up. Doesn't make a difference. That's called mav'ir. What? It doesn't burn because there's no air. Because a lot of reasons. But the gahelet shel matechet is also not burning up. It's just glowing red hot. But because if you touch it, you'll get fire, that's considered to be on fire.
But it's heated, it's not burning.
Doesn't make a difference. That you see from here. Why is it called the gahelet shel matechet bichlal? What do you even have a havamina? If you take the pot off the fire and it cools down, then you tell me it's mechabeh? Nobody ever said that. No, over here because it's glowing and it's hot enough that if you touch it, you'll get fire, that's considered burning. That's gahelet shel matechet. And if you put it out, you're not chaya mishum mechabeh, that's because you're not making peham. But that itself is considered mav'ir. That's what the Rambam holds. It's a chidush. That's the Rambam. And that's why. Rav Chaim Oizi used to make borei meorei ha'esh. On lights. Chamvadi doesn't argue that it's not fire. Chamvadi says, you're not allowed to make a beracha through the glass. Now let me make the beracha through the glass. But fire, it's fire. So you turn on the light on Shabbat, chayav, yeah. No, the fire itself has to be open, not the way you see. Okay. They talk about that by the moon, by the fire. Okay. Amar Ravina. Ravina says, Hilkach, therefore, now that we say that a melacha d'Rabbanan you're allowed to do for public safety. Hilkach, therefore, kotz b'rshut harabim. If you have a thorn in a public area, molicho paho midal ramot. You can move it less than 4 amot at a time. Even though normally we say paho midal ramot is asumid d'Rabbanan gezerah, you'll go more than 4 amot. Kotz b'rshut harabim, where the person can get damaged, you can move it. Ubekarmelit, and if you're in a karmelit, it's not a reshut harabim. So therefore, the whole thing is d'Rabbanan afilu tuva. Just go, take it, move it. Why? Because people might trip, maybe. See, the question is, what's considered mekom ezik rabim? If something is clear, people will see it. Maybe not. But if you think that people are not going to see it, yeah. Glass in the street, for sure. Glass in the shul, whatever it is. It could be. If some people won't, everybody won't. I don't know how exactly to define it. I'm not 100% sure. Tan Rabbanan, aval notenhu. So we said, some people walk without looking, or older people, they don't. If you feel it's dangerous, you don't need to go get a psak. If you feel it's dangerous, you can do nisud rabbanan. You have to get a psak if it's in nisud rabbanan, maybe, if you're not sure. But if you know it's in nisud rabbanan, don't worry so much. Says the Gemara, mecham shepinao lo yiten letocho tzonen, notenu letocho letoch hakos. So the Gemara says, Tan Rabbanan, Noten Adam Hamin letoch hatzonen. You're allowed to put hot water into the cold water. Velo hatzonen letoch hamin. But you can't put cold water into the hot water. Divrei Bet Shammai. That's Bet Shammai's opinion. Rashi says, Hamin letoch tzonen, the kasavar, they hold tata'a gavar. The bottom one wins. The ena hamin martichim et hatzonen. So when you pour hot water into cold water, it's not going to heat up the cold water. Ela mafshirin, it will warm it up. Velo tzonen letoch hamin. You can't put cold into hot. Shatachtonim martichim et ha'elyonim. Because the bottom one will heat up the top ones. The tata'a gavar, the bottom one wins. Bet Hillel omrim, Bet Hillel says, Ven hamin letoch tzonen, ven tzonen letoch hamin. But they hold neither one wins. Mutar. It's a question that we have on the concept of tata'a gavar all through Shas, but hard to say. Hard to give a clear answer. The Gemara, when it comes to Isur Ve'eter, clearly comes out that tata'a gavar.
We have 10 ounces of water. Are we talking about only water? Go put 150-degree water.
I really can't. I don't have a good answer. After learning Yoreh Da'af for many years, I can't give a good answer. Some say that. What?
Oil is under the cities and stuff like that.
I can't say either. Let's say it's talking about water. Tosfot argues, Noten Adam Hamin letoch tzonen. You could put hot water into cold water. Afilu b'kli rishon, even when you're coming from a kli rishon. The Hamin letoch tzonen, even though Tosfot many times hold Iru kli rishon is mevashel. Hamin letoch tzonen, hot water into cold water, eno mevashel, doesn't cook. Kemosha afaresh. Velo tzonen letoch hamin afilu b'kli sheni. You can't pour hot water into cold water, even into a kli sheni. You can't pour cold to hot, even into a kli sheni. Why? The Gazri Bet Shammai kli sheni atu kli rishon. Bet Shammai says if I let you pour into a cup of hot water, you'll pour into a pot of hot water, and that's asur. Ubet Hillel de pligi. When Bet Hillel argues, Visharu tzonen letoch hamin, hainu davka bekli sheni. That means you could pour hot water, you could put cold water into a cup of hot water, and we don't have to worry that if I let you do it in the cup, you're going to come to do it in the pot. Kedekatani, like it says, Be'emet varim amurim bekos. Mashma de bekli rishon, to pour into a kli rishon, modu Bet Hillel that it's asur. Lo mishum de savra ach braita tata'a gavar ke de pish bekunshis. Nothing to do with the bottom one winning, like Rashi said. The imken, if this braita was discussing the bottom winning or the top winning, the imken yakshe me'ach leman da'amar ila agavar uleman da'amar tata'a gavar nami hamivashel kedei klipa kemo shafaresh lekaman. It's not talking about it. He should have brought this as a ra'ayah to that sugya. Ela nireh kemo shomer Rabbeinu Tam. The hamin. It's like a whole new pshat over here. But I like the first pshat. No, that tam hamin letoch tzonen. Even from a kli rishon, you can pour the hot water. And the question is a gezerah. Rabbeinu Tam wants to say hamin. You always pour less into more. The Rashba doesn't like that either. He says it's all talking klisheni over here. Let's see. Let's continue. So the Gemara says, Tan Rabbanan, Noten Adan Hamin letoch hatzonen. You can pour the hot water into the cold water. Velo hatzonen letoch hachamin. But you can't pour the cold water into the hot water. Divrei Bet Shammai. Bet Hillel omrim ben hamin letoch tzonen, ben tzonen letoch hamin. You can pour hot into cold, even from a kli rishon, like we said, ben tzonen letoch hamin in a kli sheni. Bemed dvarim amurim bekos. Aval be'ambati, in an ambati, no. Hamin letoch hatzonen is mutar. Tzonen letoch hachamin is asur. Now, what kind of ambati is this? In Rashi, it's mashma, the ambati is a kli rishon. Because he's coming off of the sugya before, where it says that they wanted to put for Rebbe the oil into the ambati, and he told them, put it in a kli sheni. Mashma that the ambati is a kli rishon. Tosfot argues, he says the ambati is a kli sheni, the Rashba agrees, it's a question in the Rambam.
What's the difference between ambati and Tosfot then?
It's a very difficult thing. According to, if you say that the ambati is a kli rishon, I'm good, I'm going with my system. Kli rishon is mevashel, kli sheni is not mevashel, leave me alone. According to Tosfot, you say, Tosfot says, Nireh da'ai ambati ayri kigon shu kli sheni, v'lo have ka'hu ambati dil'el ka'amar, bikashti laniach pach be'ambati, mide ka'amar sefel enu ka'ambati, and the sefel is a kli sheni and so on. So what's the issue? So he says, in the middle of the Tosfot, ve'atel afluge, he's differentiating bekli sheni. In a kli sheni, there's a difference. Ben kos shu l'shtiyah le'ambati, to the bath. Lefi shehamin harbe, you heat up the ambati much more. Ve'ika lemigzar, not because it's going to be bishul de oraita, because the kli sheni doesn't cook. Ve'ika lemigzar daro'e otan hamin kol kach, when the guy sees it so hot, savur de kli rishon hu, he'll think it's a kli rishon. Not because the kli sheni actually cooks, it doesn't actually cook. But this one looks like cooking because it's so hot. Okay? Maritain, right. So the Gemara says, Ambati, no, you're only allowed to pour the hamin letoch hatzonen, lo tzonen letoch hachamin, according to the Tosfot, what? It's a kli sheni, but it looks like cooking, so we're oser. Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya oser. Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya says that's asur. Sounds like he's saying even hamin letoch tzonen is asur in the ambati, right? Savar of Yosef lemeimar, Sefer lareo ke'ambati. Rav Yosef thought that a bucket is like an ambati. Rashi, Sefer lareo ke'ambati. V'af agav de kli shenihu. Ho'il v'lav l'shtiyah ela l'rchitza. Asiri. Tenichale she'hamu arbe v'gazrinan. So Rashi is really going according to what he holds, that the ambati is a kli rishon. And he wants to say the Sefer, which is also for washing, is as hot as the ambati. Tosfot l'shita Tos is going to say the sefel is a kli sheni like the ambati is a kli sheni, but the sefel is smaller and it's not as hot. But since it's for rechitza, maybe we make the same gezerah that we make on the ambati. Hamalei Abaye Tani Reb Chia has a braita sefel enu kambati. The pail you use for washing is not the same as the bath. It's not as hot. We don't make the gezerah, or it's not. Since it's a kli sheni, it's mutar. Either way, according to Rashi or Tosfot. Ulemai de salika data miikara. According to what we thought before, sefel hareo ke'ambati, that a sefel is like the bathtub. The Amar Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman says, Halacha ki Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya. The halacha is like Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya, that tzonen letoch hamin and hamin letoch tzonen is asur by ambati. Ela b'Shabbat rechitza b'chamin leka. No hot washing on Shabbat. What do you mean? We said you can't wash. We said you can't. So Rashi says no. Panavia David Aglav is mutar. How are you going to wash with hot water on Shabbat? Nobody heats up the full amount of hot water for washing. You heat up a small amount, very hot, and then you mix it. Right? You're going to mix it. So, but according to Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya, if the sefer is like the Ambati, there's never any way to mix your hot water to make it mutar to wash. Right? Ela me'ata rechitza bechamin leka. Says the Gemara, Mi savart Rabbi Shimon ha-sefer kai, ha-reisha kai. You think Rabbi Shimon is going on the sefer talking about the Ambati? No. He's going on the reisha. When it says ubetelil matirim ben hamin letoch tzonen, ben tzonen letoch hamin, Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya oser tzonen letoch hachamin. Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya says you're not allowed to put the cold into the hot. Leima Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya da'amar ke Bet Shammai. He holds like Bet Shammai. Hachi kamar lo nechlaku Bet Shammai ubetelil b'davar zeh. They're not arguing about putting cold into hot that it's asur. Amar Rav Huna bered Rav Yeshua. That's what Rabbeinu Tam is saying. Rashi holds tata agavar. Tosfot before says the mahloket. Stama? Stama. No, now we're not talking about the Ambati. Now we switched. We said that Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya is not going on the Ambati. He's going on the original course. Not even the Sefer and Ambati is one parsha. Now we're saying Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya is going on the Reisha. Hamin letoch tzonen, tzonen letoch hamin, that's in a course. And what Bet Hillel said that even tzonen letoch hamin is mutar, Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya says they never argued about this topic. Right? Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya da'amar ke Bet Shammai. You think Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya is saying like Bet Shammai? Hachi kama. This is what he's saying. Lo nechlaku Bet Shammai u Bet Hillel b'davar zeh. They're not arguing about this. They never argued about chamin letoch tzonen letoch chamin. They are. There's no mahloket. Amar Rav Huna bered Rav Yeshua. He's Rav's student. There's a mahloket. If there's mahloket, they weren't arguing. He says, "You guys, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You heard a mahloket. It wasn't true. They never argued." Amar Rav Huna, you must have heard something. You thought they're arguing. What is it about? I used to say that. Amar Rav Huna bered Rav Yeshua. Hazina le Rava de lo kapid amana. I saw Rava. He wasn't makpid kli rishon, kli sheni. He did. He mixed the water. Why? Midetani Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia had a braita. Noten adam kiton shel mayim letoch sefel shel mayim. You could pour the pitcher into the bucket. Ben hamin letoch tzonen, ben tzonen letoch hamin. Hot into cold and cold into hot. Amalei Rav Huna l'Ravashi. Rav Huna told Ravashi, why wasn't he makpid? Dil mashani hatam de kamafsik keli. Maybe it's not a problem because there's a keli in between. You're putting the bucket into the sefel, it's not mixing. But to actually mix them together, maybe it's asur. Amar le me'are etmar. The braita was you could pour me'are adam kiton shel mayim letoch sefel shel mayim ben hamin letoch tzonen ben tzonen letoch hamin. So it seems like Rava has a braita that says once, according to Tosot lefachot, once it's a kli sheni, you could pour this way, that way, and there's no problem. The lo kapid amana. He wasn't makpid if it was a lechaora. Means he wasn't makpid if it was a sefer, if it was an ambati, if it was a this. Kli sheni is mutar. No. What does it mean the lo kapid amana? Once you're in a kli sheni, doesn't make a difference what you're doing. No, so the Gemara, he says, Noten adam kiton shel mayim letoch sefel shel hamin, yeah? So he's understanding you take the pitcher and put it in the jug. So I'm not mixing them. So that's why it's mutar. But if you actually pour it in, it will cook it. Like the baby bottle. But if you pour it in, maybe it says, no, me'aret mar. It says you're pouring. No, you got the wrong version of the Braita. The right version is me'aret. Me'aret mar.
So what are we doing in practicality?
In practicality, Kli Rishon is asur, Kli Sheni is mutar. Let's read the next Mishnah, and then we'll talk. You could, in a Kli Sheni, you could put cold into hot. Yeah. Ha'ilfas va'kedera. If you have a pot and another two types of pots. Shehe'eviran, you took them off the fire, merutachin. As he explained it before. You look up his Ramana. Once it's a cliche, he wasn't makbid. Right, ha'ilfaz va'kedera, shehe'eviran merutachin. You took them off burning hot. Lo yiten letochan tevalim. You can't put spices in it because the pot is a Kli Rishon. It will cook the spices. Aval notenu letocha ke'ara. But once you put it in a plate, you're allowed to put it in because it's not Kli Sheni. It's eno mevashel. I don't have to worry that the spices is kaleh habishul. Right? Or letocha tamhui, or the tray. Rabbi Yehuda says, lakolu noten. You could put it anywhere, unless there's vinegar or salt, the pickle juice type of thing, because those will accelerate the cooking, and therefore it's asur. But we're not sure if he's talking about the Kli Rishon or the Kli Sheni. We'll see. The Gemara is going to talk about it. Look, Gemara. Welcome Rashi. Sheheviran min ha'ur mirutachin ha ben hashemashot. I don't know why. Lo yiten letocham tevalim mi shetechshach. The Kli Rishon calls man sheroteach, as long as it's hot, mevashel. Aval notenu leke'ara. The Kli Sheni eno mevashel. Kli Sheni doesn't cook. Tamhui ke'en ke'ara gedola, a big tray. Sheme'are kol ha'ofas letocha, umisha me'are leke'arot. So the Gemara says, Ibaya lehu. I'll ask you a question. Rabbi Yehuda, who says you could put it into anything unless it has chometz and tzir. Areisha kai ul kula or aseifa kai ul humra. What's he going on? Is he going on the reisha and the Kli Rishon, and he's saying even a Kli Rishon is not going to cook the spices unless it's helped by the chometz and tzir, and therefore you could even add the spices into the pot unless it's got vinegar in there. Or dilma aseifa kai. Umay is going on the Sefer l'chumra, and he's saying no. A Kli Sheni is not mevashel unless it has vinegar. But if it has vinegar, even a Kli Sheni is mevashel. Tashem, I'll prove it to you. Tetanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer lekol ilfasin hu noten. He could put in all the pots. Lekol hakederot rotchot hu noten. He could put in all the burning pots. Noten chutz midavar sheyesh bo chometz v'tzir, except for something that has vinegar or tzir is pickle juice.
You're not afraid that if they give this leniency, somebody's going to do other things that are not allowed?
I guess not. We make plenty of gezeras. Bobby's saying, well, all of a sudden you stop. Now all of a sudden everything is mutar. What's going on? Everything should be asur like usual.
They don't trust us. No,
I'll tell you what happens. At certain points, people have to eat. Not that you can't go too much. It has to work. Like the chamet tveria. Oh, chamet tveria they couldn't take, so they had to make it mutar. We got to install a chamet tveria here. That's
Digging.
Oh, Faithful.
Right.
Yosemite. Hot Springs. What's it called? Bill Clinton was born there, right? Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Arkansas?
Yeah. Okay. Savar Rav Yosef lemeima. Rav Yosef thought melach hareu ketevalin, that salt is like spices. And what? And you can't put it in the pot, but you could put it in the plate. The bekli rishon bashla, and the kli rishon will cook. Bekli sheni lo bashla. Amalei Abaye tani Rabbi Chia melach eno ketevalin. Rabbi Chia taught melach is not like spices. Why? The bekli sheni nami bashla. It will cook in the kli sheni too. And therefore, according to that, melach is considered kaleh habishul. Melach is considered things that cook lightly, and you can't even put salt in your plate. If your food is hot, as long as it's yad soledet, you wouldn't be able to add salt. Now, I just want to make a point. You could see that salt. You could put salt on your food, hot or cold. But when you cook the food with salt, it's a lot better. No question, right? You cook it without salt, add the salt, right? Upliga de Rav Nachman. But Abaye's statement argues on Rav Nachman. The Amar Rav Nachman says, Tzricha milcha bishula. Salt needs to be cooked kibisra de Torah, like ox meat. Ox meat doesn't cook off the fire. It's tough. So you have to put it on the fire. So too melach needs to cook on the fire. Not even in a kli rishon off the fire. Only on the fire. Ika da Amri, there's another lashon that says like that. Ika da Amri, Savar of Yosef, Lememar of Yosef wanted to say, Mela hareu ketevalin, that salt is like spices that you can't put in a kli rishon, right? The bekli rishon bashla, bekli sheni lo bashla. Amale Abaye tani Rabbi Chia melach ena ketevalin. Salt is not like spices. You know what? The bekli rishon nami lo bashla. Even in the pot off the fire, it won't cook. The Amar of Nachman, and that agrees with Rav Nachman. The Amar Rav Nachman, tzricha milcha bishula kebisra de Torah. Salt needs cooking like basar shor. So according to that, it wouldn't be asur. Even if you take the pot of the fire, you want to put the salt in, it's not asur. The only time it might be asur is if you're putting salt in the pot, and then you're going to put the pot back on the blech. No, but if your salt is raw, could be our salt is cooked. But if you had salt that wasn't cooked, it would be a problem. Whatever it is. Bring Mishnah Berachah Gimel. Bring a bunch if you could.
If it's compared to
Bisrat the Torah, yeah.
Why not even Kli Rishon?
Kli Rishon is mutar. How do you cook Bisrat the Torah? On the fire. Okay, so if I put it on the fire, it's asur. On the fire, it's asur.
It's like this, which is a salt.
We're not talking about putting salt on food.
We are.
About putting just salt straight.
No, salt on food.
Doesn't it? That means even if that food was bashel,
The salt is not cooked.
but doesn't it get absorbed?
It's not cooked. It's going to get cooked in the food. That's the Mishnah. You want to put spice.
Get absorbed in the food.
You want to say you want to be batel?
Yeah.
No, you see not. You see clearly not.
No.
No. You put something new into the pot. What are you going to say? You have a pot of hot something. I add a little water. It's batel. No. What you put is now cooking.
Definitely better than water.
You're not allowed to put water in the pot.
But if it gets a little enough,
No.
you could.
No, you can't.
If we have a little bit of water in the thing, we say
That's because en bishul ahar bishul. Though that water is already cooked. You put new water in. It's what's it called? You're cooking that water.
You have a dry yabra and you put in a little bit of water.
Probably it might be a soup.
Really?
You're putting in new water that's not cooked? Yeah.
So it's only from water from before Shabbat.
Because that water was cooked.
So what if you put it from the urn?
Okay, that's already cooked. Said it. What?
That's what you gotta do.
Yeah. So we say yesh bishul achar bishul balach. But when you have an item that has a little juice in it, we say a little juice. That's not bishul. That doesn't make it a lach. I'm not going to say it. Once he gets the yad soledet bo, it's considered cooking. So that's the question. If something is already cooked, we hold en bishul ahar bishul b'davar yavesh. You want to warm a kibbeh, warm it as hot as you want. You want to warm up kibbeh hamda, You're not allowed, because even though it was fully cooked Friday, a liquid that cools down and you reheat it is considered cooking again. That's what it says in Shulchan Aruch.
So I can have soup on Saturday.
Right. You can have it cold, or you leave it on from before, or whatever. Let's see. Let's open Shin Yud Chet. You have Mishnah Berurah. Open Siman Shin Yud Chet. Saif. Let's read Saif Dalet first. We'll start with that. Tavshil shenit bashel kol tzorko. A dish. Tavshil is like a liquid that was fully cooked. Yesh bo mishum bishulim nitztanen. If it cools down and you heat it up, it's considered cooking. V'im lo nitbashel kol tzorko. If it wasn't fully cooked, v'afilu nitbashel kema'achal ben durusai. Even if it was partly cooked, shayach bo bishul. It's also considered cooking if you put it back on the fire. Filu be'odor teach, even if it's still hot because you didn't finish cooking it. When do I say that food that you cook again is if you warm again is considered cooking? Betavshil sheyesh bo marak, only if it has juice in it. Aval davar shenit bashel kevar, something that's cooked v'u yavesh and it's dry. Mutar l'shnoto behamim b'Shabbat. You could soak it in hot water to warm it up on Shabbat. V'mu davar yavesh. But if it's something dry, shalonit bashel melefnei Shabbat that wasn't cooked, and shorinoto behamim b'Shabbat, you can't put it in hot water. Aval madichinoto behamin, you could rinse it from hot water. Chutz min hamaliach hayashan umin adag shenekra kul yasa ispanim, which we mentioned 2 days ago. She'enam tzirichim bishul el ma'at. They only need a little bit of cooking. V'adachatan hu gmar melachtam, which is called, we call that kaleh bishul. It cooks easily, even with pouring water from a kli rishon or even in a kli sheni. Saif Hey. No, we don't want to read Saif Hey. We want to read. We want to read. Saif Tet. Kli rishon. Afilu le'achar she'eviru me'al ha'esh. Even after you take it off the fire, mevashel, it cooks. Kol zman she'ayat zoledet bo. As long as it's, pull your hand away. Lefikach, therefore, asur liten letocho tevalin. You're not allowed to put spices into a kli rishon even off the fire. Aval melach, but salt. Mutar liten letocho. You're allowed to put in. Kivan she'eviru me'al ha'esh. Why? Tetzricha milcha bishula kebisra de Torah. Who's that? That's the second lashon of Abaya. You're allowed to put salt even in kli rishon off the fire, not on the fire. V'yesh mi she'oseh latel letoch keli zeh basar maluach afilu shel shor. Some say that salted meat is different because salted meat cooks easily. Hagahav in ali tebelo melach dam yasu nakam maluach tebelav ach yasu mishum dam shebo. V'yesh osrim latet melach afilu bekli sheni kol zman shayat zoledet bo. Some are posek like the Lishna Kama, that you can't put salt in a kli sheni as long as it's steaming, as long as it's yat zoledet bo. So you have a plate of cholent, don't put salt on it if it's hot. V'amachmir tavo alav beracha. That's the way Ashkenazim are posek.
Yeah, Ashkenaz do that.
Unless you hold that the salt is already cooked. My brother researched it, he told me the salt is cooked.
Salt today is cooked?
That was salt. The diamond, this table salt is cooked. Maybe even the kosher salt. Avar v'natan melach is when they take it out of the thing. They don't mind it. They fill the thing with water, and they heat it up. And then they evaporate the water away by boiling it. V'avar v'natan melach afilu bekli rishon, filu ala esh, even if it's on the fire. Shavad isura mutara ma'achal. Why? The melach batel al gabe ma'achal. Okay. Asur liten tevalim beke'ara. You can't put spices in the plate. V'la'arot alehem mikli rishon. And pour on them from a kli rishon, because we hold irui kli rishon is mevashel kedei kelipa. Ambati shel merchatz. Here we have it. Here's our ambati. She'im ele'am mayim hamim. It's full of hot water. Now, en notnin la mayim tzonin. You can't put hot water in it. Shareh mechamema marbe, because it makes it very hot. Aval notenu mimayim hamim shebezeh ambati. You can pour the hot water from this ambati l'toch ambati acher shel tzonin. So Maran understands that the Ambati is a Kli Rishon. That's why he learns it in the Bet Yosef. The Rama comes and he says, Af al Pishu Kli Sheni. Why? Look in the Ayin Vav. The Kivan Shehem Lirchitza, since it's for washing. Mistama Hamin Arbe. Umitbashlim Atzonenim Shemitarvim Bahem Af al Pishu Ambati Hu Kli Sheni. Not like we learned in Tosfot that it's a Gezerah because it looks like Bishul. The Tur and the Rosh, they want to learn it is Bishul. Yeah. Sometimes if a Kli Sheni is very hot, there's Bishul. Aval noten hu, you could pour from the hamin, from the ambati into its onen. Ve'afilu ambati u kli rishon. Mutar le'arot letoch mayim tzonenim. You could pour from the kli rishon into the cold water. Im hem merubin ala hamin. If there's more cold than hot. Ve'afagav de'asu le'arot al tevalim, even though you can't pour on spices. Davka al davar gush, that's only on something solid, because it's as it's going on, it's going to cook it. Aval ha'chashani, over here it's different. Since it mixes right away, kivan shemit arvina hamim and atzonen, umitbatel hamimutam. So it doesn't have a chance to cook it because the cold water mixes with the hot and takes the edge off the hot water. It can't cook the cold water.
Wait, so the it dissolves, so it's not considered cooking? Because the Torah itself is not cooking, it's dissolved right away.
That's what I was saying before.
That's not what he's saying?
The Mishnah Berurah says it.
No, I saw it.
No, maybe.
It's nothing there anymore.
Maybe that's why he holds his mutar. Could be. Meham shepina mimenu mayim hamim. If you have a pot that you took out the hot water from, mutar liten letocho mayim tzonen. You could put in cold water kedei lahafshiran in order to take away the chill. Umutar litzok mayim hamin. You're allowed to pour hot water letoch mayim tzonen into cold water. O tzonen or cold water letoch hamin into hot water. Vehu shelo yiyu bekli rishon. As long as you're not pouring them into a kli rishon, mepene shemehamemin harbe, because you heat it up a lot. What about tziruf? Yeah. Look at Mishnah Berurah Pei. Mayim tzonenim merubim, you could put a lot of cold water, aval mu'atim, but a little bit, sheyuchlu lethamem mechom ha'mecham, that they could get heated from the mecham. Ad sheteh yad tzoledet bahem, till it be yad tzoledet. Asur, it's asur. Aval merubim, but to put a lot, mutar, afilum yimaleh et kol ha'keli, even if you fill the whole thing b'mayim tzonenim. V'ayedeh zem, based on that. Yuchal ha'keli lavoli de tziruf, you could temper it, dahainu kishakli matchot cham, when it's hot. V'notnim letochot tzonen, and you put cold. Mehazekim et hakeli, they strengthen the keli. Vezeu gmar melechet hatzorfim, that's the finishing of the tzoref, sheritichat ha'ur mefafa'ato, the heat loosens it, and it can break v'amayim etzarfim. Afilu achi shari, kivan she'en mitkaven lazeh, v'lav pesik reishehu. Gives the answer, it's not a pesik reishe. The ifshar shelo hiyagia hakeli al yedeh zelideh tziruf. It could be it's not going to be tziruf. It could be it wasn't hot enough. It could be the water's not cold enough. We don't know for sure. If you want to make tziruf, yesh omrim shu hayav midoraita, v'yesh omrim shu midrabanan.
How come we're not worried about the first few drops?
What?
How come we're not worried about the first few drops?
Because it mixes right away.
But those first few drops definitely get cooked.
It's batel like. Here, look. Over here, where's he pouring? What's he pouring? He's pouring
water into water.
Hot water into cold water?
No, cold water into hot water.
Into kli rishon or kli sheni?
Kli sheni.
Kli sheni. Read the next piece. Ubishnehem. Afilu amayim tzonenim mu'atim. Even if there's only very little cold water. Sha'adayin hayad tzoledet bahem. It's yad tzoledet bo. You put a little milk in your coffee. You took coffee from the urn that's 200 degrees. right? You made your coffee. Now you put a little milk in it, into the cup. It's yad soledet bo. Gam ken shari. Kivan shu bekli sheni, kaimalan de kli sheni eno mevashel.
Once it's off it won't even cook that first.
Not once it's off. You take it off the fire, it's a kli rishon.
Right.
Kli sheni is when it goes into the next keli. Well, he's not putting in a kli rishon.
Let's say you're putting in a kli rishon.
It's asur to put in a kli rishon.
Even a lot of hot cold water.
Yeah. What? Leave me alone.
But they assume that a lot of cold water is because of the first few drops.
They sort of.
In the kli rishon, right?
It could be.
Cold water is because of the first few drops. Because obviously it's going to become colder.
There's a whole mahloket on this. Okay, we have to look at it later. We don't have to, we got to do the next Mishnah. Let's go. Now we move on to muktzeh. En notnim keli tahat haner. You're not allowed to put a keli underneath a lamp. All right, again, the lamp had a wick sticking out like we saw in all the pictures. Sometimes the wick was drawing more oil than the fire would burn, and it drips.
That's when he wants the shemen, right?
Whatever, it's dripping. En notnim doesn't make a difference. En notnim keli tahat haner lekabel bo et hashemen. Why? We don't know. If you put it there before Shabbat, mutar, that's okay. But you can't use that oil. Now you have to, the next morning you got a little cup of oil. You want to pour it on the salad. Haval, batashhit, right? Can't use it. Because it's not prepared for Shabbat. It's muktzeh. Why is it muktzeh? Because that fire, that oil was in the thing to burn. For the ner, it was set aside to burn. You couldn't use it before Shabbat. You couldn't take that oil out of the ner. So now that it's what's it called? Now that you have it, it's still muktzeh. Use it tomorrow. Doesn't make a difference. Do you know which oil it was? Before Shabbat, you couldn't get it. Rashi tells you two reasons. לקבל בו שמן המטפטף, משום דשמן מוקצה, the oil is מוקצה. וכסבר, and he holds, אין כלי ניטל בשבת, you're not allowed to move a כלי on Shabbat, אלא לבטל, לצורך דבר הניטל. Only for something, you only allowed to move kelim. We allowed you to move stuff for non-muktzeh items. For muktzeh items, we don't allow you to move kelim. Inami, another pshat. Kasavar, he holds, asul levatel kli mechano. You're not allowed to stop a keli from being useful. This keli, this plate that you have, it's fine. Now you're going to put it, it's going to catch muktzeh, to become a basis to the muktzeh. You're not going to be able to move it the whole Shabbat. That's called mevatel kli mechano. The keli was movable, and you made it unmovable. Right? Mishum dehave kekovea lo makom umehabero betit. Something is muktzeh, it's like it's cemented to the ground. It's like you built it into the ground. It's domeh lebinyan. Wow. That's the way to look at muktzeh. This item is glued down. It's muktzeh. Right? Umehabero betit v'dami lemlacha. V'keli zeh mishi po bo hashemen hamuktzeh yeh asul letalto. It's giving muktzeh, so you're cementing it down. But mi'ba'od yom, if you put it before Shabbat, mutar, because you're allowed to cement before Shabbat. Ve'en otin en nehenim from it. Now it's funny. Rashi gave you two reasons: either en keli nital sul davar nital, and asul levatel kli mechano. For some reason, the Gemara gives us a different reason. Rashi decided to give us only the later two reasons of the Gemara. Amar Rav Chisda says he's gonna apply the Mishnah to a new case. Even though we've said you're not allowed to put a keli on Amru, and now Mishnah it says that, right? You can't put a keli under the chicken to catch the egg. You're allowed to turn the keli over on top of it if you see the egg on the floor so that nobody will step on the egg.
Why? Because you can always take off the egg. It's nothing.
Right? Don't say any of the reasons why. The Gemara is going to explain. Look at Rashi. Aval pisha amru en notnim keli tachat hanegola lekabel betzata kishehi matilata b'mkom daron. The chicken is going to lay the egg on a slope, and it's going to start rolling down. Stupid chicken, right? Shema titgalgel v'tishaber. Maybe it's going to roll down and break. Umidiyuka dematnitin shamin. He's learning this from the Mishnah. The dami, putting the cup to catch the egg is like putting the cup to catch the oil. Noten keli tachadang v'shemin. Aval kofeh alea keli. You're allowed to cover it with a keli. V'lo teima, and don't say en keli nital letzorach davar nital. Don't say I'm not allowed to move the keli for the egg which was born on Shabbat, which is muktzit. No, don't say that. Right? Amar Rabba. Rabba says, "My ta'ama de Rav Chisda." What's Rav Chisda's reason? So Zura will say, yeah, when you catch the egg, you mevatel kli mechano. When you put the kli on top, you're not mevatel kli mechano. Zura learned Rashi. That's what Rashi explained in the Mishnah. The Gemara fits very well with it. What could be wrong with that, except for the fact that the Gemara doesn't decide to learn it like that. That's so I said it's very funny. Rashi gives you the two reasons. He prompts you, but except for this Gemara is going to go with a third reason. I don't know why Rashi thought like that. So he says, Amar Abba my ta'amad de Rav Chisda, Kasavar he holds, Tarnegolat asuya latil betzata be'ashba. That the Tarnegola will give birth to the egg in the garbage, in a place where people step and it could break and whatever, that happens. Ve'en asuya, because to the chicken that's Gan Eden, what do I know? Ve'en asuya latil betzata b'mkom daron. But the chicken is usually not stupid to lay it on the hill, so it should roll down the hill. So what? The Hatzalah mitzuya hitiru. Hatzalah she'ena mitzuya lo hitiru. On Shabbat, if something that you could lose money a lot of times, it's Hatzalah mitzuya, we let you get involved in that. Why? You're going to make the guy lose eggs every week? It's a big part of his business. He's got eggs coming. The chicken's laying eggs. He's going to lose an egg every Shabbat, because he has a dumb chicken that lays the eggs in the ashba. So we let him cover the eggs. But Hatzalah she'ena mitzuya, this one chicken, this one guy that has a retarded chicken that likes to lay eggs on the hill, for that one chicken, for one thing we're not going to give a heter. We know Hatzalah she'ena mitzuya, you can't get involved in. Okay, once in a while, don't bother saving that. Says the Gemara, Eitvei Abaye. It's a difficult concept. What's the isur? If nothing is wrong, I can't. I'm only allowed to be involved in things that are common. It's hard to define. Rashi says, "V'atzala mitzuya itiru letalkel tel kili letzorcha, v'afal pi shabetza davar she'enu nital b'Shabbat." So Rashi seems to understand the Hatzalah she'ena mitzuya, meaning really there's an isur of en keli nital letzorch davar she'enu nital. But for a Hatzalah, sometimes we give you a heter.
Maybe we're talking about Isur.
No. The betzah is muktzeh.
I understand that. Maybe moving a keli.
It's ki'ara, Zur. What's the isur of the ki'ara?
No, maybe it's not talking about ki'ara.
It says ki'ara. It says keli.
So you could maybe say that you only have to move a keli after Isur.
Exactly. It's hard to say.
That's what I'm saying, but that can't be keli after heter it's talking about.
Why not?
Because of what you said. What's the Isur?
So Rashi says the isur is en keli nital letzorch davar she'enu nital, and we mati that for Hatzalah mitzuya, not for Hatzalah she'ena mitzuya. Tosfot argues. Tosfot says pirush bekuntris l'davar she'enu nital. V'gari ve'enu nireh ve'nireh kasher l'riva because of whatever. Ve'nireh lo lefaresh d'Hatzalah lo yitiru letroach b'shvil davar afilu b'davar nital mishum tirha. Because the tirha. Okay, so Abai is asking, "V'atzalah she'ena mitzuya lo yitiru v'atanya nishbera lo chavit shel tevel." See, Rashi learns it's chavit shel tevel. So tevel is muktzeh. Tosfot learns it's not tevel. Any hatzalah. Birosh gago on his roof. Mevi keli, you bring a keli umaniach tachteha and you put underneath it. Why are you allowed to save it for? How often does a barrel break? Hatzalah she'ena mitzuya. No. Begulfe hadete deshchichi depaki. New barrels break. It's only the old ones that they survived the first filling, and that. So those are good. But how do you find the barrel is no good? The first time you fill it, right? You fill up a cup of coffee. Sometimes it leaks, sometimes it doesn't. But the second time is when you find out. First time you find out. The second time you know. So that's one. So it's a hatzala mitzuya. Eitiva, another one. Notnim keli tachatane lekabel nitzotzot. You could put a keli under the fire to catch the sparks. So you see that you're allowed to be matzil. Nitzotzot na mishchich. Every candle sparking is shachiach. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen. What?